On my quest to learn everything about how to make chicken wings in the oven, I came across America's Test Kitchen, their technique of making chicken wings between two sheet pans. This is supposed to replicate the wings that come off a rotisserie bird. I'm very intrigued and really want to try out this technique. So in this video, I'm going to do everything that they did inside the video and see how the wings come out. For the full ingredient list, check the description box below, but enough talking, let's get cooking. The first step is you got to get your oven preheated. So I got my oven preheated up to 400 degrees. The good thing about this recipe is that there's no convection setting needed because we're going to put the baking sheet on top of the chicken. So the air blowing around really doesn't make a difference. You know, there's going to be a lot of happy people who always ask me, well, I don't have a convection oven. What temperature? Well, you don't need a convection oven for this. No questions in the comment section about what temperature because you don't have a convection oven. So we're going to start off with some whole wings. The price of wings has come down a little bit, but it's still not as where it used to be before the pandemic. These were what, $2.99 a pound? So we're going to use everything that we got here. Buying whole wings is the way to go. When you buy trimmed wings, one, you're not getting a wingtip, and that's so awesome for making bone broth, and you got to pay extra for them to cut them. So you get less for more. So let me show you how I like to cut down a wing. So first thing I'll go is right here. So right in between this like webbing in between the drumstick and the flat, I'll take a nice sharp knife and I'll cut down until I get to the joint, but not there. Then once I'm at the joint, I'll pull the joint apart. Now I can get my knife right in between the two bones and we'll cut without having to cut the bone. I'll do the same thing for the wingtip. I'll cut the webbing right in between. I'll pop the joint apart, and once I can see where the bones are, I'll grab my knife and we'll go right in between one more time without having to cut the bone. So now we got our drumstick, our flat, and our wingtip. These are awesome for making bone broth. So the only way to get them is to buy the whole wing and trim them yourself. So keep making chicken wings and you'll stockpile these and then you'll make really nice bone broth. So now to season these wings, we're not gonna add much. So we're gonna add a couple of tablespoons of some olive oil. Now I'm using olive oil instead of a neutral oil like canola oil because I just don't like cooking with canola oil. And now we're gonna use a McCormick's rotisserie chicken spice mix. So this is a blend of garlic powder, onion powder, salt, pepper, a little paprika, and it says rotisserie chicken on it. And the whole energy of these wings is you're making rotisserie wings, but just the wings. We don't have to roast the whole bird. So I thought this seasoning would be the perfect seasoning for this recipe. Even though in all the other videos I saw they just use salt and pepper, I'm gonna go on a limb here and use this seasoning. And now we'll get in there with our hands and give this a nice mix until all these wings are well coated with the spice mixture and the oil. You know, in everything I saw about these chicken wings, they say crispy, but I don't think they really mean like crispy, but I think they're gonna have a crispiness factor to them. The best part about these is that they're gonna seem like they came off the rotisserie bird without having to roast the whole bird. And everybody knows that the best part of the rotisserie chicken is the wing, and there's only two. So you get a little snack for whoever picked up the food, and that's it. So let's take a look at our setup. I got one tray that the chicken's gonna go on, and I got it lined with aluminum foil and parchment paper because this is gonna be a big mess, and the parchment paper is gonna help it make a little non-stick. So that'll be one that the chicken goes on. And then the other one that's gonna go on top, I'm gonna line that with aluminum foil on the bottom. I don't wanna have to have my tray that goes in and out of the oven on the chicken untouched. Not only do I think that's a little dirty, a little grimy, I don't wanna clean it after, so we're gonna wrap that with aluminum foil too, but we're just gonna wrap the bottom. So now let's start lining up the chicken on the sheet pan. They took the drumsticks and they put them with the meaty side towards the outside of the pan, saying that the heat's gonna come from the outside of the pan in. So let's put the meat that's gonna take the most amount of heat to cook it on the outside. And we'll just keep finding drumsticks and keep lining the outside. Our flats, we're gonna put flat side down. So this side, they got one flat side, and this is what I would call the underneath side. We're gonna put the underneath side down in the middle. So flats in the middle, with the flat side down and then the drumsticks around the outside lining the sheet pan. And I always like to give the skin a little bit of a tug. I got a few flats left. Let me see if I can arrange them. Maybe if I go this way, I can fit a few more. Well, that did not work out. So we'll just take a couple of these flats and put them right here in the corner. And now everything is evenly and nice and spaced out. So now on the top, I'm gonna take another sheet of parchment paper, put it right over the wings, and now our other sheet pan lined with aluminum foil right on the top. And I'm gonna give it just a little bit of a press to smush the wings down. The whole purpose of this is so it makes strong contact with the bottom of the sheet pan that's gonna go into the oven. So we wanna make sure that everything is smushed down nicely. Once this is all set up, this is gonna go into our preheated oven. These are gonna go on the bottom rack of the oven. And I already have my other rack lined up pretty close to the top in broiler position because these are gonna go from here onto there, so I don't wanna mess around once it's all hot. So we got our oven all set up. Let's come back in 45 minutes and see how these wings are doing. You know, this recipe is a little counterintuitive to me because when I make my chicken wings, I put them up on a grate instead of on the sheet pan, and I put the convection oven on to blow the air around. These are covering the chicken wings, so now there's gonna be a lot of moisture, but in the recipe, we're trying to get the juice to render and for us to collect it for that nice chicken glaze. So let's see how it works out in about 45 minutes. So these have been in the oven for about 45 minutes. Let's see what it looks like under the sheet pan. So we're gonna take this off. Wow, I'm actually really impressed with the color that I initially see on a lot of these wings, especially the ones that were touching the bottom of the sheet pan. So you can see that we got some really nice color, especially on these drumsticks. The flats were a little underneath, so they weren't getting that contact, but these are looking actually really nice. If we flip one of the flats over, let's see what that looks like on the other side. This parchment paper is sticking a lot more than I had expected it to. So usually when things are sticking, I like to let them chill out for a little bit. So let's let these cool off and see if we can pull them off in a minute or two, because I really don't want to damage any of the skin. Actually, that one came off pretty good. And now let's take a look at the color on that. That's actually looking really nice. So smashing these chicken wings into the sheet pan, not too shabby. So now what we're gonna do before we flip all of them is we're gonna try to reclaim some of this juice. So we're gonna put the baking sheet back on top with the parchment paper. And I don't think I'm gonna get as much juice as I saw in their videos, but let's see what we can pour out of here. I mean, we're not getting nearly as much juice as they did in some of those videos, but I also did not put the chicken wing tips. Maybe that was my mistake, but let's see if we can take this and rectify this situation with not too much juice. So you can see, I mean, that's not much. I'm not gonna really be able to separate much fat from the chicken wings, but I think I got an idea of what I'm gonna do here. So let's flip these all over without trying to damage any of the skin. I'll see which ones I can flip that aren't gonna give me too much trouble, and we'll work with those first. I'll tell you that the sticking is way more than I expected. You know, some of these are completely stuck. Ooh, that was okay. So only a couple casualties. Most of these were able to flip over, no problem. So I'm gonna call an audible here, and I'm gonna take some of this rendered chicken fat. There's not much juice in there. It's really only fat. I don't really see a separation in between, and this has been sitting for a little bit. So I'm just gonna take some of this chicken fat, and I'm just gonna dab each one of these before we throw it under the broiler. If anything makes chicken skin crispy, it's chicken fat. That we've learned as we're making chicken wings and doing that flip technique. So let's just take a little bit of this and put this on there before it goes into the broiler, even though in their video, they did it a little after. And they removed the fat, which I thought was strange, and they put just the gravy, I guess. You can see, I mean, we just put everything that was in this pan right back onto these wings. There's nothing left. So now I'm gonna put these back in the oven on the high rack on the broiler. I'm gonna keep my eye on them because I don't know how long this is gonna take before they go from crispy to burnt. So they said 6 to 8 minutes, so I'm gonna check at like 4 and keep checking to make sure that we don't burn these. So these were in there for just about 5 minutes. We got beautiful golden brown color on these wings. They look really good. I think 6 to 8 minutes is a little too long. If I would have left that in there any longer, they would have definitely had some burnt on them. You know, this one's a little brown. It's definitely edible, but it's getting there. But these wings look actually really good, and I'm really surprised that they came out with this much color being all covered up. Let's let these cool down for a minute or two before we try them. So these have been chilling out for about 5 minutes, so I can bite into them without burning my mouth. But let's take a look at some of these wings. I mean, this looks really good. I mean, it's not a crispy style wing where it's like replicating like a fried wing. If I pulled this off of a rotisserie bird, I'd be super excited to try this thing. The skin looks good. I mean, it's not like crispy skin, but it's definitely got some crisp to it. The color is great. The smell coming off of this is unbelievable. This thing isn't like my other crispy chicken wings videos, but if we drag the knife over it, let's see how crispy it sounds. I mean, that's got some decent crisp to it. Look is cool and smell is fantastic, but taste rules all. So let's see how this thing tastes. It's not super crispy, but this is mega delicious. I mean, if I was gonna pull a wing off of a bird, I'd want it to taste just like this, and they do. And I think that the cook is perfect on them. I mean, any more and these things would be a little dry. The skin is everything that you would want them to be from a rotisserie chicken. These are absolutely wonderful. I said it before and I'll say it again. Chicken is made to cook in its own fat, and this is just a perfect example of that. This is so good, and it's so chickeny. I'm glad that I seasoned this with the rotisserie chicken spices and not just salt and pepper, because the flavors are really popping. Might be just a little bit less with just salt and pepper, but this is so good. I'm gonna polish off a few more of these wings. While I'm doing that, check out my crispy chicken wing series. This is where I test out a bunch of different techniques, how to make wings crispy in the oven. I'll see you there. Thanks.